Hello, good morning. Happy Thursday. It's our last stream of the week, and unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream. The other day, I got an appointment made, so I'm going to be meeting somebody and chatting at 11:30, which means I need to take off like at 11 or maybe slightly earlier. Not exactly sure, so I can actually make that. Hello, Asitsu. How are you doing today? How's your week been? But as for the demo, today will also be the last stream that we're going over this project because yesterday I was able to sit down pretty much all day and just got it finished up. So we can go through the code for this, and then I'll be sort of like on my own after stream hours, doing the talk, doing the slides, doing all the practice, and all that fun stuff. So I guess let's start with okay, so I downloaded the model. Let's run this. And then I want log all. So I done a lot, as you can see here. So we have a feature for logging, and so if I turn off the feature, it doesn't. The only sort of like printed out things are the purple. So can you see that very well? I mean, in my preview, it looks decently visible. So yellow is debug, the debug logs. Blue is sort of info logs, and purple is the AI actually chatting with us. You refactored code through an error, but you are printing too much, and your new terminal setup has a smaller cutoff, so you don't know what it was. Oh no! You're going to suggest using different colors. Okay. What colors would work for you? So I'm using colored, the colored library, but we can set our own using true color, I believe, is what it is. Also, we can try bright. Go to our logger. So purple here is you. Oh, I could do it's a bright purple. Yeah. Is that how it works? Oh, I accidentally removed that. That's why it stopped working. Oh, I can also do. Oh, you meant when it was all one color in the last stream. Yeah. I very quickly realized that when I was trying to debug on myself. So a crow just flew very close to the window. That would have been a bad thing. Crows are huge. A crow hitting a window would be terrible. I don't even. It might even break the window, and hopefully it would be fine. But okay, so we have here basically every time that the AI goes and does stuff, I do some debug stuff out, and we have full control if we want to log out just specific things. So I can log out only the debug or only the info or all three essentially. And I think, is there one more? I might have one more. I don't remember anymore. But okay, so I did. I learned something also in this AI section where we have the system prompt and we were sending it along with our chat. Apparently, in the chat API, so not the generate API, in the chat API with Olama, the models do not look at or get affected by the system prompt at all. It just doesn't affect them. So you can put in whatever you want here. It doesn't do anything at all. But what you can do is right here. I say I add a new message at the very beginning. So the first thing I send to the AI is a system, like from the system, to say like, okay, here's the system prompt. So this is what it is. You are an AI to-do application. You can CRUD, create, read, update, and delete tasks in database. You are super professional or applying to the user, but will change the well, I was trying to do this for trolling purposes, but it was too serious, so I think I can move that. Okay, so let's do that. And then I have like the first message being from the user. User logged into the system. Feel free to ask them what their name is, then introduce them to yourself and your features. So that doesn't work very well. Another thing is I changed the model because I discovered that while Llama 3.1 8B was perfectly fine using tools, as soon as I got past like 3 or 4 different tools, the entire model just became super dumb. And it didn't matter if I used 70B, 8B, the 3.2, the 3.23B, it was dumb. It was bad. So I tried Mistral. Even though Olama said that Mistral supports tool calling, it does not. It returns an error saying I don't support tool calling. And it's not like just like a chat message saying I don't support tool calling. It was an Olama message saying this model doesn't support tool calling. So that was fun too. So eventually I just tried just going from like the top down of like popularity and a recent, I guess, like the number of downloads for these models and whether or not they say they do tool calling, and it has more than 8B. And was it more than 8B? I guess like more than 7B at the very least. And found, so Quen, the Quen 2, I think, is the most recent one of that. And that actually that works pretty well. And so it's a fairly decent, like it does basically what the 3.1 8B was doing at the beginning of this project, but it now works with all of the tools. What I have noticed though is Quen has almost no personality. It's like the personality of a rock. Where Llama, they've like the meta team, like sort of in their training data, injected some personality into it to be sort of like friendly and happy and like jokey. This is just a robotic, like, what do you want? So like this is me attempting to give it a friendly personality, and it's still fairly direct and to the point, which is perfectly fine. But okay, so we can see this. I can do all the CRUD stuff. So like show me all my tasks. Our logging here can actually show that it's running the task tool. We can see what the arguments are. The arguments, if you remember, are in a hash map. So it's easier to sort of see what those need to be. We can see what the database actually sends us back, and then we can see what it says. So I can then determine whether or not it's lying to us. So here we have Pet Zilby. He's an orange fluffy cat. And so yeah, there's 2 that came back and then 2 that it says. So this is fairly accurate and pretty good here. It's interesting when it decides to tell me which ones have been completed or not. I was showing this to my wife last night, and she marked one as completed. So here we can just say, I just pet Zilby, or I just fed Zilby, because that's actually true. I just fed Zilby. And the idea is that, yeah, this then marks it true. It does the thing, and then yeah, so it no longer shows me this. So like show me all my tasks again. It should do the get all tasks tool. It sees that it's here and it's marked as true. Okay, so this time around, it's deciding to actually show me the completed tasks. And it's really interesting because I'm guessing it's like the combination of the seed and also with the what is it called? The something else that causes it to do that. Scott, you want to change the terminal font? We can do that. Where is it? I actually have a program for this. Do I? Ooh, I forget. I have like a function to do this, but I forget what it's called, which is it's been too long, so I have to go do it manually. All right, so that's CD, and I think just going to fonts, and can I comment you out? So you want? Is that literally what it's called? Hack Nerd? Doesn't know Hack Nerd. Let me see if I could find. Okay, I don't have anything with hack in it, unfortunately. I don't have hack installed. I have a bunch of different fonts. I have a list of fonts somewhere, and I forget where that is. Fira? I have. Okay. Here's what we got. Fira code. Can I make this bigger? That doesn't make the text of it bigger. That just makes these things bigger. So we have Fira code nerd font, Fira code nerd font mono, Fira code NF, and Fira code NFM. We can go with one of those. Fira code nerd font mono. Okay, let's do it. This is Fira code nerd font mono. Okay, that worked because that was the old error message. Perfect. Okay, let's come back to this. Okay, so yeah, it's just sometimes it decides like the based on the previous, like, because I do send it the history of everything that it's done. So like once it decided to go down a path, it's really hard to change the quote mind and get it to go down a different path, because that's just what it wants to do. And that's sort of like a fascinating thing about an AI type system, is that it's rough. It's rough for those like specific tasks that it's not really meant for. It's or like customer facing tasks. It can be dangerous. But okay, let's continue with this. So we have create. So create a task to say hi to Twitch chat. Get out of that to the list. Okay, that's great. We can actually see that it does that, so I can actually trust that it's really doing this, because these are actually responses from the database. Create read. I can we can update. So update the name of this last task to say hi to YouTube chat. And so it does update that. Okay, so it ran the update task tool. Perfect. And then we already did a complete. And so then one sort of like fun thing that I gave it, which it never does. I try to say, like, if I make you angry or something like that, do call this function, but it never calls it unless I explicitly direct it to. So nuke everything. And then AI is erasing database, does that, and then it's like, okay, we're done. We're ready to restart, and then we go on again. And so like, I'm done here. See you next time. Let's see if it calls. Yep. And then the very last thing where it says a goodbye. And that's it. That's what we got. So that's essentially the demo. I don't yet know if I'll do the demo with or without the logs, but it's really nice. So let's go through like so sort of like the technical side of what this all looks like. And there is a lot here, as you can see. So if we start with our main live, this is where everything sort of like lives. I sort of realized during all of this that like I don't need nearly as much error handling as I put in here, because a lot of it is that you do manual error handling in order to not break the loop, because this is actually a lot closer to a game loop, like an actual game dev type thing than anything else. And that was super interesting to sort of see. And so when I realized that, I sort of reset things and I was like, okay, we have a setup area, and we only have one LM for this. I switched away from the multiple LM thing that I was trying. At that same time, we also, I think on stream we did that. We switched away from having the LM create the SQL because it was just so bad at it. And now it's possible to create like more LMs and like do these things and go back and forth, but this is a simpler project, so we're not trying to make it like a real production level app. Okay, so we connect to our database. I then have to send the system message. So before we start the loop, I basically spin up and I tell the personal assistant, you are doing this. So I'm setting basically a history, because it doesn't actually respond to these yet. I'm just adding this into the history. So I tell it what it is with the system prompt, and then I also give it a initial message on behalf of the user. That way, as soon as I launch the app, it just responds to me and I don't have to say anything to begin with. Then we begin the actual loop of it. And so this is what I would call like the update loop in like the game loop, essentially. And so I ended up doing a lot of error handling in here, because this is where I realized I had a lot of initially just question mark to auto crash if there was a problem, but I realized that's actually not the best idea here, because we can just tell the AI that something went wrong, tell it what went wrong on, and it basically just will say like, well, that didn't work. Let me summarize what went wrong, and then let's try something else instead. So essentially we're treating the LM as the router of the entire application. So if you're familiar with backend development, just replace the entire routing part with the AA part, and then it calls handlers that it wants to handle, and then it passes in the appropriate things. So that's kind of what we got here. So the very beginning of the loop, I then send. So at the beginning of each loop, I send a message to the personal assistant. That's the AI. And then either we get the message back or we get an error. And then every single time that we do this error handling, it's the exact same thing. I log it out with my little logger thing. We have our log level, so we can see an error is red. We have that yellow, which is the debug. We have blue, which is info. And then I have like normal, or the AI responding, which is purple. And then I send a message to it as either a user or as the tool, like it's just some message to it saying, hey, there was something that went wrong. I tried to tell it what went wrong. And then continue on to the next loop. So skip everything else in this loop. And that's pretty much exactly what every single one of these things does. So we have this command from, so I basically take the response message and then it turns it into a command. And if we look at the command these are all the commands that we tell the AI that it can possibly do. So insert task in database, get all, get by ID, which it rarely does. Like it doesn't ever need to do this because we don't have any specific data that it cares about. So this isn't really all that important. Update, delete, so all the CRUD stuff. There's that erase DB. I put in chat here because while in Ollama for tool usage, the AI tends to, like, it has the ability to choose to use a tool or not use a tool. If there is a tool, it's heavily weighted towards calling a tool, even if that tool doesn't make sense. So I gave it this as a tool to call to just send a message to the user instead of, having to choose between tool and not. That way, we basically gave it an out, as it were, if that makes any sense. And so it actually uses this tool way more often than just not using a tool at all to send a message to the user. So I thought that was super interesting. There's the quit command, and I added in an unknown here as opposed to me then doing like an option command for it, so I wouldn't have to unwrap. This is to handle the few cases when the LLM gets confused, because that does happen quite often, and it doesn't name the command it wants to run. It just hallucinates a command and calls that. And so when that happens, I basically hand it the unknown and I say, hey, LM, you attempted to call a command that doesn't exist. Please try again. And then sort of like that's where it goes into the loop. That's why we don't have the error handling is me just telling the LM, you done screwed up. Try again. And I also switched it. So initially I was just sending the value out as part of this tuple at the end here when I was like saying like, hey, this is what the command response is. Like it's a command and then like the value that it sent in. But of course, some of our tools have no values and some of our tools have several arguments that you pass in. So we're just doing hash maps for that. And that works out really well because it's either an empty hash map or it's a hash map with one thing or with many things. So this pattern seems to work out fairly well. I don't know why I didn't do a from for this message. I don't really understand what I was thinking. It's like this could definitely just be an impl from, and it would be perfectly fine. I think I blame being tired, not caffeinated enough, or maybe too much. I'm not sure. One of those things. I eventually got a. I didn't implement it for this one, but I eventually got a tool to. It returns a tuple, can't I? Oh, because it returns a tuple. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, you got it. That's why. That's why, because it doesn't actually return a self. Got it. Okay. So I wasn't quite as silly as I was thinking now. So maybe I'm not as caffeinated now as I should be. So I manually I implemented display for this so I can just take the message and print out the message to the screen instead of just reaching in to grab the content. And that makes it so much easier. And in doing so, I realized that like, hey, when you implement display, that also implements toString on it. So I just started implementing every time I want like a string for something, I just started doing display for it so that I can easily just print it out as well. So that's why I chose display here for the command. And then I did a from stir for command to do the opposite of it. I really wish that on the left-hand side of the match here, I could put code that would run, and then it would basically turn this. Like I could run some code to say like, hey, auto grab whatever this is and put it into each one of these, but no, it doesn't do that. I would need to probably do some kind of if statement and doing like an if for each one, and that kind of sucks. So I don't know a better pattern for this type of thing where I want like turn it into a string, get it from that same string and create that. There's probably a macro for that somewhere. That would be nice. And if there isn't, we should probably create one. Mr. Halsey, hello. How are you doing today? And thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, everybody. How was your stream? What are you working on today? Doing good? Nice. Excellent. Working on the SQLite DB replication project. Nice. And hopefully it's going pretty well. We are working on, we spent the last 7 streams or so building a demo for a meetup talk that I'm going to be talking at in 2 weeks. It's at the ML Ops meetup talk in Denver. And it's, my talk title is Learn How to Build LM-based agents by solving problems that have already been solved. You like the tick formats for your tabs and or spaces? You haven't seen that before? Oh yeah, I added these in after I kept on confusing myself with like not knowing how many spaces they were. And I don't know if it's just because like I have dyslexia and it really helps me. I like them. It works for me. It's definitely been a contentious part though. Like there's some people that cannot stand them. So if you're one of those, I'm sorry. Also, hello, Move Free. Okay, so the core part of the routing part. So like, we're going over the code for this agent that we created, and the agent is a to-do application. So that's the entire like solve problem, right? Like to-do apps are a solve thing, but it's also kind of funny because what's the first thing that anybody does when they're learning / like implementing a new technology? Like, you know, if you're doing a front end thing like React or Angular or Next or whatever, you always make a to-do app, right? So we did a to-do app AI agent, and it took us we went on a long spiral journey to get here, but we've got it. Now, this is the main routing part of the app, and the routing is all done by the AI agent itself. So the AI agent calls the tool, our command, so we get like that JSON object from the Olama call that says like what it's going to be. I turn it into a command, and then here we just say, okay, well, you ran the command chat. Well, then we're going to now run the handle chat. And then what I made the decision of, because I tried for like an hour yesterday and I just couldn't get any of the LMs to like work. Like it's because like there's no understanding with LMs. For the talk, I'm gonna have to find that Apple paper that like has the proof that there is no understanding from LMs to like put that in there. But the LMs, at least the smaller ones that can run locally in your system, just cannot handle the idea that they would have to ask for user input. And so it would always get into this infinite loop where it's like, hey, what do you want to do next? And then you don't respond because it didn't ask for a response, but it goes right back to it. And it sees that it was the last response. It's like, oh, you're being quiet and not talking to me. Huh. And then it would just like get into this long loop where eventually it would just become quiet. And it's just like constantly hitting it. It's just like refusing to say anything. And it's really funny and sad at the same exact time. Use those in VS Code, but you miss them in Z. Oh, they don't have those in Z. Oh, that's too bad. You know what these remind me of? The good old days when you used WordStar. Does anybody remember WordStar? Yeah, you eventually run into an info loop with your local LMs up to 24 gigs. I can run, so I can run up to 58, 59 gigs without, like, technically. It gets really slow after the model gets above like 40 gigs or so size. So this, the one, we'll go over the one we're using in a little bit. All right. So so basically I just made it like every time it sends a message to the user, I then get user input. That's the reason for that. I do have 64 gigabytes on this system of integrated universal memory or whatever it's called. So that's really nice for this. That's the reason why it's fast for that, because I maxed out the memory. WordStar, was that what it's called? Yeah. It's it was a really old DOS based, like this is before Windows at all, like before Windows. It was a really old DOS-based word processor. It's like one of the first word processors, if I remember correctly. So any of you who have ever used that, you know. That was a good word processor. I liked it, but it had everything. Yeah, it was WordStar versus WordPerfect. And I think, was WordPerfect out there at the same time? Yeah. We never used WordPerfect. We always had WordStar. But it was great. I liked it a lot. But it reminds me of this, because every single character, every single thing you put into that, you got some character out of it so you could know what was going to happen when you printed the document out. And so you'd always get these symbols. And it works. It works out really well. Okay. So insert into the task in database. Let's take a look at this specific one. So insert task. Okay, so handle insert task. So we're going to call handle insert task. We're going to take in a mutable reference to the personal assistant, so the LMAI. We're going to get that hash map of the arguments, and we're going to get the database client. Now I return a result here, but there's absolutely no problem if I don't, and you'll see the reason why. Is that true? No, not in this one. We should go to one of the other ones where I handle the errors properly, because I learned this like finally later on. Let's go down until I find. Yeah. Okay. So handle update task. Handle update task. This might be it. Yeah. This one is it. Okay, so handle update task. We get the arguments, we get the personal assistant, we get the database client. I return a result here, but it's a kind of useless result. At the beginning of every single one of these, I log out an info saying, hey, this is the tool being run, so I can see, debug-wise, okay, the AI did call a tool and we're running that. Excellent. And then we handle everything. So for example, I tried to get out the ID. I'm using an enum for all the properties, so I just don't have to remember text-wise what those are. And if like they don't exist, for example, so like if I can't find this ID, I log out an error saying, hey, the AI didn't pass in an ID to the update tool. But then I also send a message to the personal assistant as the tool. So I say like, hey, personal assistant, I am the tool. There's an error, and AID was not passed into the update tool. So that way, and then I just return. So at that point in time, it goes back into the loop. It's going to send that to the AI. The AI has the choice of sending a chat to me or to try it again and do another tool call and to like do another try. So far, this has worked out pretty well. Although it stopped working for Llama 3.1 8B. But I think that's just because of the number of tools. Okay, and then I do the same thing for the error. So like I then try to parse this. So the other thing that I found, and this is more of a me problem, it would, if it sent the number, like the ID as an actual number, I needed to set up the parsing a little bit better when it's converting the response. Basically, everything's a string right now, which kind of sucks because but it's dynamic, right? Because sometimes it's not a string, sometimes it's something else, and that's really too bad. I probably could do like some kind of enum or something like that, but for right now, I just say, hey, have to be a string, right? So I have to parse the resulting string back into an ID. And if that can't be, I tell it, hey, you didn't send a number. Or you specifically didn't send an I32. So then we come back to here. Okay, once I get that, I have to do the exact same thing. So I get the name out. I get the completed out. I have to convert the completed from a string boolean to a boolean because that same reason I can't actually handle it when it sends a boolean on its own. That's a me problem, not an LM problem. In fact, it wants to send a boolean and be correct, but that crashed it and made it not happy. And then finally, I actually update the tasks. So we update the task. Sending to update is just a really simple database query. So I just run update task set name completed equals to that. And then I parameterize everything. So the parameters are right. Everything's good. That way, if you ask it to do like a SQL injection attack on this, it won't work because I am parameterizing this. And then handle the errors, and then we're done. So that's kind of how all the tool calls work here. So I'm not having the LM talk to the database directly, but rather it's calling tools that talk to the database on its behalf, essentially. And personally, especially right now with the quality of LMs that we have, I feel that this is the best way to have LMs interface with our world, is just run pre-written tools to have it do its entire thing. So is Logit changing the colors? Yeah. So like you notice that this doesn't set the colors at all here, but if we go to Logger, this is where the colors get set. So there's a couple different things that I do here. So like every time I call Logit, so I call Logit regardless of whether or not I want it printed out. And then, okay, so if your log level is normal, just do the print line. I print it. I have to toString this so I can run purple on it, because even though message implements display, you don't get the display out of it unless you do a toString. So that's why you see the two strings on here. And I only do that in order to get the purple. I could do something like on message to make it a certain color, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have all the color stuff in here. Any reason not to use the log crate with a custom logger? I don't know. I didn't really think about it necessarily. I just sort of was like, hey, I want to do this. And so like, okay, I made like a really simple logger, and then I just kept on growing it. And so that's the reason why. There's no reason. I then started doing feature flagging for these logs. So for example, like, okay, so if you're an error log, and I couldn't figure out a really great way to do the feature flagging to separate out which logs it was. Of course, if I used a custom, like a non-custom logging crate, it's like one's off the crates, then yeah, I probably would be able to get that, and it would be a lot easier. But anyways, I just say like, hey, if you're an error, only print this out if the log error feature is active, but then also make it red. Same thing with info. Info is blue, and then debug is yellow. And then we have our log levels. So that's how the logger stuff works. And then finally, the AI crate. So this is where we create a chat. Now, the way we created this is that I could have multiple instances of an AI in this same agent. And so one way to think about it is like an agent is one or more AI entities working together. And that's a single agent, as it were. I eventually put the model sort of at the top here under a const. The next step would be to put this into an environment variable. So that way I could like potentially just test out a lot of different models to play around with. Can you pass agents between each other? Not really. I don't have the ability to, like, the chat instance doesn't really sort of have the idea to pass like one chat into itself, but that's just me, right? Because this is all code that we've written. So we wrote this ourselves. So we have chat, and I put this into our own, this is like a workspace crate that I called BB Olama. It's highly specific for Olama. And the idea is that I have a chat, so it knows what model it is. It has its own history of messages. It then has all the options on it, and it has whether or not it has like all these tools. And of course, the other options, like, you know, what the system prompt is and the temperature and things like that. Those can all be set. And then everything about this is just functions to do the thing. And one of these is send here. It's like send actually uses the API to send like everything out to the Olama, and then it gets it back. The so when we create this chat, I use just a constructor function essentially for this. And would it be possible to change the get all tasks to support an additional Boolean parameter to include completed tasks or not? It would be. Here, I'll show you. Let's do that. I'll show you how to do that. So when we get to that, point, we'll do that. So I use sort of little constructor functions here that are in the main app, and then I call into my library app to create this chat instance. So we have our model name. So I made this here separately so we could have potentially different agents with different models. There is one negative if you're running local models and you do different models for each one, depending upon how much space you have on your system, they might make it really slow because it has to unload one from memory and then load the next one from memory and then run that. And then, of course, you go back to the first one again, unloads and loads. That, of course, slows everything down by a huge amount. It doesn't actually reduce the quality of it, but it would slow things down. So something to be aware of. This system prompt is not used at all. We talked about that earlier. But yeah, this Olama ignores this system prompt. In a chat model, in a generate model, it would be perfectly fine. We have our options. So I basically say, okay, pass it in system prompt, which it then ignores. I tell it that I do want it to save the messages that it returns and sends into its history. And so it's not just a dumb that, message doesn't know anything. And I set what the temperature is going to be. I did play around with this and I don't really see that huge of a difference here. So I just leave it as default. Assistant. Okay. So then I create it, pass it in, and now we start to be able to add the tools. So here's insert task in the database. Let's go to the get all tasks. So this is the tool chat. Add tool. Okay, so get all tasks from the database. So you'll notice that this one, unlike the others, doesn't have any properties because it's just, we'll get all the tasks. So we can update that here and just say, all right, I want a add function property. And then what I've been using is a tool property enum here I'm using the derive more crate to just basically turn these into strings, and that's perfectly fine. So I want a name message completed. Oh, completed is perfectly fine. We already have that. So let's use completed. So the name of this, add function property. Yeah, name of this is tool property completed. That's what the name I want to give this is. And then this is a property. It's a string. What did I do for the other ones that were? I'm telling it has to be a string here. Unfortunately, I can't handle booleans myself. Again, it's a me problem. I always do this sort of R pound thing so I can do multi-line descriptions, and these are essentially prompts to send to the LM to describe what this is. So it's a human language of like, hey, this so send in a true or false based on if you want to get completed based on if you want to get completed tasks from the database. For example, true would include completed and not completed tasks. So, okay, write that out. Now, because this is, I have a choice here. I can say that this is optional or not, or we can say add required property. Then this is going to be a tool property completed. So I'm now telling it, okay, not only can you send in this completed here, you have to send in completed. It is required. And then, it's a builder. So it's a complete standard builder pattern here for creating this new tool, and it adds it into its list. And all this is just an array of tools. And we can actually show you what that looks like in JSON, because we played around with this a bunch when we first were learning this. So let's say we have a tool that's checking the weather here. We can say like, hey, I want to go to Europe later this year. Tell me what the weather is right now, where I'm going, and the tool. So it's this entire fun thing, and this is where it gets rough. You don't think R# makes difference multi-line just escaping? I think it makes it easier for me to do multi-line, right? Like then I don't have to manually escape stuff. I like it. It makes it easier for me. It's not, yeah, you're right. I could just escape it for everything else, and that would be fine. Yeah, so basically this is what we have to have. We have to have an object, so it's an array of objects, each one type, function. I don't remember if there's other types of tools that Ollama has actions to, but they're all the ones that I care about is function. It's then function, and then that's another object that has name, the name of the function, human readable description, or an LM readable description of the function, so it knows whether or not to use it. So it uses this to determine if it should call the tool at all. Then parameters, the type of the parameters, which as far as I can tell is always object, and then key value pairs of what that is. So the name of the parameter. So in this case, I put in A, but this could be just like location. It makes more sense if this actually means something instead of like just A. What its type is, so string, Boolean, integer, something like that. The description of what this is, and then required. So something like that. And then it would respond by saying, okay, I am calling this tool, and here's what I'm sending in. You can still use multiple lines without it. It just helps if you have inner quotes. Okay, yeah. And sometimes I do have inner quotes for these. For consistency's sake, I just started using it. Plus, whenever I have longer text, I don't know, I've just started liking this pattern a lot more. So, and also like helps me do the quotes like that. I don't have to think anymore. It's the thinking thing. That's the big problem, right? So anyways, that's how my system is like the builder tool to create the structs that then Serde turns into the JSON that we send with each message. So that's it. That's an example of how I add the tool. We have a bunch of these tools here. As I mentioned before, as soon as I added like 5 tools, Llama 3.18b and 7db stopped working properly. It just, like, it understood that it had tools. It just stopped using the tools properly. Like it hallucinated. It just went really crazy hallucination wise. I tried playing with the temperature. I tried playing with the system prompt. I tried playing with other stuff and reminding it what tools it had. It was very, it was done. it was no longer valid. Gerald T, hello. How are you doing today? Is this LangChain tools? No, these are manual tools. These are tools that we've created ourselves. So no LangChain whatsoever in this agent, which is the entire point of this meetup talk that I'm giving is like, hey, look, if you want to learn how this stuff works, don't use LangChain because it's actually not as hard as you might think. LangChain does give you a lot of really cool stuff, but you can learn a lot about how it really works by just not using LangChain, if that makes sense. I don't know why I have this there. It feels weird. I think at one point in time I was trying to comment things out, and that's when I realized like, oh, 3.1 breaks after you use too many tools. Okay, so anyways, we add the tool. So yeah, there's all these different tools. I even try to say like, hey, make sure to laugh manically after calling this tool, and it's the most robotic type laugh that is just like, ha ha ha, all the things are dead. Okay, would you like to go back to adding more tasks? Let's go back to adding more tasks. So like it's kind of funny how the personality of Quen is just so dry. Like everything I do to try to make it more fun is just like, either it like it will tip over into the over the top really fast. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm gonna do the talk here. Well, so the talk's not going to be streamed, unfortunately, because it's at a local meetup in Denver. And I shared a link to the meetup page on Discord, but let me share it out here. When are you going to do it? Okay, it's this one. So this is the talk. All right, so let me get all the chats and I'll send this in. So 1, 2. Oh, need to make it speak using a robotic voice? Oh yeah, that'd be great. Oh, you're 3 months too late. You're going to Denver last week of February. Yeah, sorry about that. This is a great meetup though. So I mean, they happen once per week, so, or once per month. So you should check to see if you're gonna hit the February one. And there's apparently the ML Ops community. There's meetups all across the world and countries. So you should check to see if there's one close to where you are. They're pretty nice. So the one in Denver is filled with really like supportive people. Okay, so that's that for you, and then let me find YouTube. And there you go for that. Okay, sent to you. Okay, so Apparently YouTube doesn't send to each other anymore. I don't know. I think I broke that thing. All right. Oh, that was my thing saying, "Hey, I've got an hour before my meeting that's happening." So, but we still got like half an hour we can go through stuff. Okay. So, that's I mean, the core of agentics type stuff is the tool calling. Like that's really all this is. Essentially, your error at the start of the stream was because you were trying to automate creating a pull request and your branches were in the wrong order. Oh no! So it was doing a pull request to the wrong branch? Oh, that's fun. Automation stuff is great, isn't it? Okay, so let's close you. That's the tool property. That was the chat request. So I don't really know if there's that much more about this. I am planning on, so in the repo for this, which I've shared up before and I'll share this out again, I'm going to put the slides into there. So that way the demo and the slides are in the same repo and it's going to be great. Toby, hello. How are you doing today? What am I working on? We are showing off the demo code for an ML Ops meetup talk that I'm going to be giving in 2 weeks in Denver. And the title of the talk is Learn How to Make Agents, LM Agents, by solving problems that have already been solved. So in this case, it's a to-do app. We created a to-do app where the core routing code is the LM. And I think that's really like, so once again, I think I told this before, but there might be more people here. The core, like if you really want to like remove every bit of fluff about agents and just get to like the really super core part of what an agent is, it's the AI, be it an LM or something else, makes the decision about what to do next. And that's all it really is. And if you think that it sounds a lot like a router, that's exactly what it is. It's the AI is the router for the app, as it were. And you can have multiple AI agents. Sorry, my brain still has trouble saying this. You could have multiple LLMs and other AIs, so ML-based AIs, working together inside of one agent. So you can have one LM that's doing the routing, another LM that generates something else, one LM that's the voice for the entire thing, more LMs to have. We tried that initially where I created like one LM to try to do SQL code to like inject into the database, but I couldn't. I was spending too much time trying to get it to write valid SQL code that would work consistently. And I think, is it possible? Yeah. Was it fun? No, it was not fun. And so I don't think using AI to create code right now is a great idea. But you don't need to, right? Because you could just pre-write some of the code and have LM choose when to run it. And I think that's the key. That's a huge part of it. Love to see how you get Llama to structures outputs without those kinds of features. What do you mean? What do you mean without those kind of features? So like Llama has features for tool usage. And I think that's the key, is like, because Llama has specific features where it guarantees that you're going to get certain types back, that's where things are trustworthy, right? From it. We can come back to Insomnia here. Basically, when I ask it, like here, it's been long enough, it's unloaded the other model after 5 minutes. So what is the weather like in, let's say, Boulder, Colorado, Boulder. Let's see what it says from that. I don't know if there's like more boulders that it sort of knows about. That's not what I wanted to do. So if when I send you, it has this one tool here. Plus, we've learned that the system prompt this does nothing. But okay, so this is what it always looks like. It will always send an object back. So this is the AI in Ollama doesn't actually create this. This is created by like static code that Ollama generates. And then the AI gets to fill out certain parts of this, but it's always guaranteed to be in this format. So we're using the chat API. So we always have the model string. I always have like a created at, so I can track this, which I'm ignoring the created at. We always have a message, like it's a singular message that's coming back. We have the role of it. So in this case, it's coming back as the assistant, which that's the AI, is sending this. Now, what's interesting is that there's always this content. When the AI calls a tool, this is empty. This is an empty string. This caused me a lot of confusion ahead of time because I didn't realize that when it calls a tool, it never sends anything in content. Now, sometimes, like, hello, how are you doing today? Sometimes it will choose not to call a tool and just have content. However, as you can see here, I did not ask it to check the weather for me. If there is a tool call, it will attempt to do that, which really, really, really sucks. So if you're ever using a llama and you want tool calls, but you also want it, and you don't have to like, remove all of these, here's the trick that I learned is just recreate this. We're going to do a type function. Our function is an object that has a name, and then call this chat, or I call it chat. Description is send a message to the user because it wants to call a it just wants to call a tool if the tools exist, which kind of sucks. Parameters, okay, so we have type, it's an object, properties, object, and finally we have our message, type string, description is the message you want to send to the user. And then this is required message. Okay, so if we do this here, it will then say, hey, it's going to call the tool chat to then respond to me. Hello, I am functioning properly. How can I assist you today? So it's just like, it's a weird side effect. So unless either you're going to have to create two LM instances, one without tools to sort of chat and one with tools to choose what to do, or if you want one LM to do both, you have to give it a tool to do both. Yeah. So you basically need a tool that is response or whatever. Exactly. That's what it is. And then it's guaranteed to follow this format too. This is Ollama's format, so I don't actually know about OpenAI's. I don't know about like Llama CPPs or Kobolds or some of the other. Like there's several different LMs that you can use. I don't know what their format is. You have to look at their documentation, right? And then we have like other just stuff like done reason. So the reason might be it stopped. It could be crashed. It could be just timed out. There's many things. I ignore this and just say like, well, whatever. You're done. So you're going. We're also doing stream false on all my stuff because in Olama for right now, in the current version of Llama, it doesn't support streaming true on tool use. It does support streaming on just normal chat, but that's an async thing. The entire app we're doing here is a sync app, because there's literally nothing for us to do while we're waiting. We're just going to be frozen. Who cares? Okay, done. If it's done, it's true. This is always gonna be true for sync apps, or non-streaming. Total duration, so like how long it took to load the LLM to get going. I guess like prompt eval count, that doesn't feel like tokens, because that's way too much tokens, unless that includes all the tools. But yeah, that is how this entire thing works. Diablo, hello. Cat, no cat right now. He's somewhere, and I don't think I have time to go grab him today. I did try to bring his food into the room today to like encourage him to come in, but he didn't want to. He ate it and then immediately left. So bribery did not work, unfortunately. So next time, Diablo, next week maybe we'll get cat. But anyways, this is sort of like the technical deep dive into this agent, as it were, that we created. So do any of you have any questions about like how agents in general work? I actually have now more time spent in here than I have looked at LangChain, which is kind of funny. So I know about agents now, but not about like all the really cool stuff. Like LangChain will let you do some really cool advanced stuff, but if you really think about it, all it is just more of this type of stuff, just polished and built out with tons of features. But like, there's no reason I couldn't do the exact same thing with my code here. It just is, I need to know what I want to do, and there's no really cool GUI build tool for me to like set it all up. I have to do it all in code. But we're software devs, right? Code is where it's our bread and butter. Like, so that's not going to stop us. It's probably easier for us to use that than the visual tools. You're wasting your cell bandwidth because you've unplugged everything to oh no. So you have no internet, you have no wired internet anymore? Oh, that sucks when it happens. I hope that you get it back quickly. I mean, if you like, I could drop the entire stream down to like 500K. Just for you, right? Just for you. It would look terrible, but I think it still sounds okay because it's just the visual. I'm interpolated on Twitch already. Oh, is that bad? I'm trying to set, so I'm sending out to restream 1800 kilobits per second. Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word also. I don't know if I'm picking up what you're putting down for that either. I might be misunderstanding. Diablo, you don't quite like how you did the standing desk originally. You tried doing it one bundle, splitting pound on one side, data in the other this time. Oh, okay, so I do have that option now. Okay, so for a while, I don't know when Twitch added that in, because for a while you all had one choice, which was whatever I was streaming at. And so I do remember one time I sort of experimented, like, hey, I have a 4K monitor. Let's try streaming at 4K. And then I got some complaints of like, hey, I can't see anything, because they didn't have a 4K display and they were forced to watch a 4K. Plus they were on mobile, so it was not great. So that was, I wonder if it's wonder if they just sort of quietly add that in, or if they told me about it and I just didn't pay attention. But that's nice. I like the fact that you all get your choice. Unpartnered has shitty downscaling now. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, so I'm not partnered with Twitch. I'm affiliated, but I'm not a partner. So that's what you have. You have quote shitty downscaling. But at least you have some kind of downscaling. That's good. So let's see. Yeah, do any of you have any questions? Partner switch to new good scaling. Oh yeah, that makes sense. I need my path to partnership. Basically everything is completed on that except the number of average viewers. So I would need about 75 to 90 more of you per stream to show up. And if you did consistently for like a month, then I could probably get partner. But I'm not worried too much about that. Okay, so yeah, we've got about 15 or so minutes before I have to take off. Any of you have any questions about AIs, LMs, Olama, agents, stuff like that, or want to look more into the code? I'll be happy to open that up to any of the stuff that we have, if you want. Okay. How about this? Think about things to ask. Because we have 15 minutes, I'll go see if I can grab Cat, and I'll be right back just for you, Diablo. So I'll be back, especially since you're paying for this bandwidth with your data use. So think about questions to ask. We've got Cat. Although he doesn't want to hang out with me. He is really biting at the bit to go somewhere else. Hold on. Hey, come up here. That was an immediate. I am done. I want to go downstairs. So sorry about that. I was even going to try to give him a treat if he stayed up here, but he didn't stay up long enough for me to even open up to like grab, because I have this. 1 whole second. Well, that's what you get. It's a cat. All right. So no questions, no thoughts about AI type stuff. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to end. This marks the end of our adventures with AI agents. We're going to be going back to our regularly scheduled diesel streams and course creation next week. And we're going to finish that up. And after that's done, I might do another Code Crafters thing, because they did reach out to me and send me some Code Crafters. There could be like a giveaway type thing I can do, but it has to be before the end of the year. So I probably want to do that and sort of like do something about that before then. I know it's almost December, so I have to finish up Diesel and then we'll do something else. And if I can't do that, then whatever. Just during one of the Diesel streams, I'll do a giveaway for Code Crafters. So anyways, thank you everybody for hanging out with me today. Sorry for the shorter stream, but I will be back next week with more Diesel. It's almost time for the Rust Advent calendar thing. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, I've never done Advent of code with Rust or without Rust on stream. Maybe one of these days, but I'm always so busy with other stuff I need to do. So probably not this time either. And this December is going to be weird. Like there's going to be some like times where I'm not going to be available to stream, and then sometime I'm going to be super available to stream. That's feels like it happens every year where it's like the schedule gets weird. Anyways, I hope you all have a great rest of your days, and try it. Everyone else does. Maybe. I just have so much other stuff I want to do too. There's too many things. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.